Hi everyone, I'm Katie Wayno, and there's Natalie Huff and Kristen Smith. And today we are going to be talking about the Structured Photographic Expressive Language Test Preschool 2, also known as the Spelt P2. So the purpose of the Spelt 2 is an assessment that is designed to measure expressive morphosyntax in children between the ages of 3 to 5. It assesses a child's use of prepositions, articles, plurals, possessive nouns and pronouns, auxiliary verbs, copulas, conjunctions, and WH questions. And it does all of this through a series of 40 images, as well as 2 practice images to get the child used to the prompts that the clinician is going to be providing them. This test is good for identifying children who have a specific language impairment, as this assessment will make their difficulties with morphology and syntax very apparent. The acceptable responses for this assessment are provided directly underneath the prompt for the clinician on the protocol manual. Also, this allows for easy scoring because acceptable responses are also right there for the clinician, easy to see. The manual also provides something that is uncommon in most manuals. It provides acceptable answer variations for speakers of African American English. This is important to note as many assessments don't include these alternative responses, as I've just mentioned. So how to give the Spelt P2. You're going to see a clip in a couple seconds about how to actually physically give the Spelt P2, but here's just a brief overview. So to give this assessment, there are very few materials required. You need the stimulus book, which is that tiny little rectangular spiral-bound book that you see in the picture, and you need a protocol, which is the white and black picture on the other side. The protocol has all of the language for the clinician who is administering the assessment, as well as acceptable answers. So for example, number 1, it says, "Where is the dog?" And underneath it says, "The dog is," and then in parentheses are the acceptable answers from the child. On the chair, a chair, so the pictures of a dog sitting on a chair, and they want the child to say where the dog is. The stimulus book is composed of 42 colored images, all of which are real-life items. And to give this assessment, the clinician and the child should be close in proximity. This makes it easier for them to both be looking at the picture to be sure that the child is seeing what's happening in the picture, because the biggest challenge with this assessment is that some of the prompts may require some receptive language on the child's part. So if they don't understand what the clinician is saying, it's important that the clinician be sitting close by to help direct them where to look, as this is a test of expressive language and not receptive. If a child doesn't answer correctly the first time, the clinician can provide them with additional prompting, which is in Appendix A of the manual.
Okay, so this is the protocol for the Spelt P2. It has all of the language for the clinician who is administering the assessment, as well as the acceptable answers. And when you open it, you will find that the language is right here, and the acceptable answers are in parentheses, and then it tells you what type of word class you are looking for, whether that be a WH clause, negation, and a verb, auxiliary, and so forth,
etc.
etc. Also, while we're here, I'll just show this is where you would do the scoring. You'd put the name, date of birth, and then chronological age, and this is where the raw score would go, etc. And then we have the stimulus book, which is super tiny, and it's composed of 42 pages of colored photos, which are all real life items, and so forth. That's a funny one. And then To give this assessment, the clinician should be sitting next to the child so that they can see the items being presented. The clinician should read the provided prompt and allow the child to respond. If the child does not answer correctly or is requiring additional prompting, Appendix A in the manual provides a list of ways to provide additional cues to respond to the prompt, which is back here. Appendix A, and then you do a flip, and it has all of the provided responses. And now our clinician will be giving me, the child, the assessment.
Okay,
It's okay.
that's great. Here's a picture. A little girl is on the floor. She is peeking out. Maybe she is hiding. Let's see what's happening in this picture. The boy is sitting in the wagon. What is the girl doing?
Pushing the boy in the wagon.
The girl is.
The girl is pushing the boy in the wagon.
Great. Where is the dog?
On the chair.
What do you see?
Books.
What do you see?
Cookies.
Good job. One glass. Here are.
2 glasses.
She is.
Reading a book.
But they.
Are coloring?
Great job.
Thank you.
This tie belongs to Daddy. Whose tie is this?
Daddy's.
The boy found a doll. He asked, whose doll is this? What does the girl say?
It's my doll.
They are playing, but he.
Is catching.
Mhm. Good working.
Thank you.
Wrap it up. That's
So-
how you do it.
This is how you do the Spelt P2. Our clinician did a great job.
The child was also great.
Yes. And at the end, when you're scoring this, you use the manual to find the standard scores conversions in the back, which is
The appendix.
the appendix, which is where you would convert the raw scores to the standard scores. And that is it for today.
See you next time.
The Spelt P2 manual does not report measurements of specificity and sensitivity. However, they are both important for determining whether or not the individual being assessed has a problem or not. A study conducted by Catherine Greenslade, Elena Plant, and Rebecca Vance found this test was sufficient in identifying children with specific language impairment when a cutoff of 79 was implemented. They found that this test had a sensitivity of 90.6 and a specificity of 100%, which are both very high identifying scores. This test also has good reliability that suggests it is sufficient enough for use. The test-retest correlation was 0.96, which is a high correlation and suggests good internal validity of the test. Interjudge reliability had correlations ranging from 0.99 to 1, which also suggests statistical significance. The internal consistency, or the consistency of the items on the assessment measuring the same construct, was 0.798 to 0.882, which are also statistically significant. Concurrent validity was measured by being compared to a subtest of the Comprehensive Assessment of Spoken Language, which is also known as the CASL, and the correlation between these two tests was 0.86, which is also suggestive of a strong correlation. So our recommendation is that we approve of the Spelt P2 and we would recommend it to be used, although it does have its holdbacks when being used. Since the specificity and sensitivity were not provided by the creators of the assessment, we all agreed that it is important to stick to the recommendations from Green Slade, Plant, and Vance when using this test to identify a student with an SLI, as the sample and the experiment were only between the ages of 4 and 5. It would be inappropriate to use the test for somebody younger or older, but it would be a good screener and a good tracking method to assess morphosyntax. Also, the wording of the prompts on this assessment from the clinician may also be assessing a child's receptive language instead of just their expressive language. Thank you for listening to our presentation.